Sports Court with 13 on your side.
Welcome to Sports Court, everybody. It's going to be a little different for a couple of weeks. Jamal is at home with the baby.
Aww.
So we're going to have some special guests to argue with us. This week, he's a good friend of mine. He was at my wedding. Anthony Bellino, the host of the X's and Bros radio show.
Excited to go head-to-head on this one, Mike.
And this week, the case is, how does Simone Biles' legacy look after these Olympic Games? Testimony. Well, I got to be honest. She's the most decorated Olympian of all time. But the fact of the matter is, when people talk about Simone Biles, even after she made a surprise comeback, they're going to look at what happened the first week of the Olympics. Her bowing out for mental and emotional reasons. People supported it, some people didn't. But regardless, when you talk about Simone Biles, this is something that's always going to be part of the conversation. It's not fair, but that's the way it is.
I hear what you're saying. I can feel what America is saying. And yes, it's a huge story right now because the Olympics is going on. But outside of that, when we look back 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, we'll remember Simone Biles, the gymnast. I think that this is just a minor blip on the radar. Sure, does it look bad? Yeah, it doesn't look great. I never heard of Michael Jordan walking away in the middle of Game 3. We will talk eventually and once in a while about the fact he stepped away from the game for a couple years. So I think when we look back in time, yeah, we'll talk about the fact that she walked away, but she did return. She won some medals. I really don't think it's that big a deal. We only talk about gymnastics once every 4 years, and we only do it for about a week anyways.
Cross-exam.
Anthony, it's funny that you bring up Michael Jordan because I'm going to bring up another Chicago Bull. 2 words, Scottie Pippen, 1994 Eastern Conference semifinals. Phil Jackson doesn't draw up the play for Scottie Pippen. He sits. To this day, when we talk about the legacy of Scottie Pippen, right or wrong, we bring up the fact that he was not available for this team. Why do you think Simone Biles should be treated any different?
To be honest with you, I think she'll be treated differently because we tend to treat our athletes a little bit differently. If you've noticed some of the coverage and some of the response to this, had LeBron James done something like this, they would have stolen that man, is what they would have done. He would not have any longer been in any conversation about the greatest of all time. But we treat individual athletes much different depending on who you are and what sport you are participating in. It's the same way that you would treat your son and your daughter. If your son goes outside and falls down, you typically say, hey, get up, quit crying, don't worry about it. If your daughter falls down, you tend to be a lot more, I don't know, what's the right word, gentle with that individual because, well, it's your daughter. It's just the way that the world is. I know that's probably going to get some pushback and some backlash for you, Mike, but I guess that's why I'm here, right? If Simone Biles' name would have been Simon Biles, that man would have been in a lot of trouble.
Closing arguments. I guess at the end of the day, this isn't so much a sports court about Simone Biles as it is a sports court about the people. I've seen the worst of what we had to talk about with Simone Biles. A lot of people were on her side. A lot of vocal people were not. She's the most decorated gymnast in American history, her and Shannon Miller. But the fact of the matter is, this is something she will never escape. That's not fair, but that's the reality.
I think as we look back 12 years, that's 3 Olympics from now, we will talk about Simone Biles when the gymnastics events come up, and we will only highlight her greatness and how good that she was throughout her run with Team USA. I don't really necessarily believe that this story will get as much coverage moving forward.
The verdict.
And now it's in your hands, jury at home. Head to our Facebook page to give us your opinions. And next week, we'll highlight our favorites. See you next week for another exciting case in Sports Court.